Hi,
Okay,
Justin. Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you now. We also, please know we have other people signed on as well. Uh,
Okay.
so if you want to discuss anything specific, I encourage you to book a confidential consultation because there is no confidentiality or attorney-client privilege on this webinar
Right.
because there's third people also here. So you can feel free to ask any general questions and I'm happy to answer. Just to know, like, if you get into specifics, it is best that you book a confidential consultation.
Okay, I will probably do that, but I had a general question about what are the steps of setting up a 501c3?
Okay, there are quite a few steps. First thing would be to create an entity. All right. Let me point you to some sources. Sorry, I got calls coming in. Let me share my screen. You see what I'm looking at. Let me just open a new window. So let me, this Sterling firm, I put out there a pretty in-depth blog on nonprofits. This is
It's everything.
This is a video you'll want to watch. See how long it is. But we go into depth. You can see the outline of the topics. So when you ask me what are the steps for starting a nonprofit, there's quite a bit. First thing is creating an entity. All right. Then from the entity, you have to have your purpose. And the purpose must be a charitable purpose for you to qualify for the 501c3 status with the IRS. That's really what you mean by starting a nonprofit, is that you want the tax benefit of the IRS code 501c3. All right. Social welfare, if you're a church, it's a 501c4. That's what they call churches, social welfare organizations. But you want the entity status is a mutual benefit corporation. Okay. It is an entity. I believe you can create your entity first, an LLC. I would recommend you creating an LLC and then you apply for the tax benefit. All
Okay,
right.
it can be an LLC. It doesn't have to be a corporation.
Yeah, that's a good question. You might be right on that because they are called mutual benefit corporations. It may have to be a corporation. And I think I do get into those details in this overview. Let me send you this video. Put it in the chat, or if you'd like, I can email it to you directly, and then we can discuss things through Zoom. What is your email, Michael?
The current one,
Oh,
WLIONPROD.
let me just send it to the one you signed up with, the coffee with the lawyer. I think I just saw it come in. Your meeting registration. This one's
Yeah.
all right. All right. So take a look at that. Let me see. I think I have it in the text form on my website.
I'm sure I can find it through. Yeah, I'm just in general, I'm part of an organization. We're looking at setting up a 501c3, but may go through fiscal sponsorship first.
Right. Okay, well, this discusses fiscal sponsorship as well. And you bring up a good point. The alternatives to forming a nonprofit is through fiscal sponsorship or entering a partnership. And I discussed that later on this, but this answers your question right from the start. Yes, it's a corporation. I would create your corporation to have it in existence while you apply for the tax exempt status. So you have an entity. Nonprofits are, it's kind of a misnomer. They make a lot of profit. All right. It's just that the advantage is the tax exempt status. They can be very advantageous and they can be very profitable. But you must comply with the charitable purpose. All right. That's the main challenge here. You must have a charitable purpose. So I don't know what your business is doing or how you're conducting your.
Yeah, no, this is easily nonprofit. So,
All right. Well, this goes, I would click on all these links and read all these posts I have about nonprofits. I go
okay.
into pretty depth about them. So if you just go on my website and start searching for nonprofits in the blog section, the legal blog, you'll find a lot of articles, but the video is it's all encompassing. That discusses everything. You'll see, I think it's got it by chapters, so you can just click on the chapters. If not, we should have that.
Thanks.
You can get past the
That's an appropriate ad.
yeah. It doesn't look like we have it by chapter, but these are the topics.
Okay.
So I would take a look at this video. This video has got everything here.
All right. I'll look all through that and then I'll probably contact you to set up some private thing.
Okay. Any specific questions, maybe without revealing too much information? If you have a question.
No, I know I've been looking at this stuff for a while, but I'm involved with this new organization and we need to set up an ability to raise money and go out and ask for donations and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of aware of the process, but now I'm trying to get into the specifics because we're gonna have to start filling out applications.
Right. Well,
doing things and yeah, the main question, the setting up the corporation as opposed to an LLC is a question. The organization is newly formed and it's sort of a member-based organization.
mm-hmm.
So with members as officers, and so setting up the officer structure that satisfies the corporate structure will be a bit of a question.
Okay. Well, this video, and I'll try to get the transcript of it, addresses all that. What is the legal formation of a nonprofit? How do nonprofits raise funds? And you also discussed what are the alternatives to a nonprofit: fiscal sponsorship and unincorporated nonprofit association, which is essentially a partnership. But I would take a look at those sections.
Well, that's an interesting point. How does the unincorporated, other than not having a corporation, how does the unincorporated nonprofit association differ from the 501c? Can you get a 501c3 with an unincorporated nonprofit?
Let me pull it up and refresh my recollection.
Because I haven't really heard of that particular thing.
They're rather unique. They're an alternative. I don't think they're a better alternative, but let me see what I've researched on that.
Well, the real difference is the annual corporation cost, I think, would be the difference between forming a corporation and some other alternative.
You might be right on that. Sounds somewhat accurate. That's just the outline. I will have to find the transcript for this. Hmm. We're talking about the alternatives, and that was yeah, you're right. See, you're not filing the forms with the state. So there's less formalities.
So then the question might be, can you start with an unincorporated nonprofit association and then turn it into a corporation once some funding comes in to pay for
I would say yes.
all the bells and whistles?
Yes. The setback, if you're operating as an unincorporated nonprofit association, is that you will not have a legal shield between your personal assets and the association's assets. It operates as a partnership. So your personal assets are at risk. You do incur personal liability. I generally do not recommend associations, which are in the law partnerships. Partnerships are generally bad because you can be held liable for the wrongs and the debts of your co-partners, of your co-members. Your personal assets could be liable for the wrongs of your co-partners. Okay.
Yep.
So you have great exposure, and there is significant personal risk when you operate as an association, or also known as a partnership. Okay.
Yep.
So when I hear partnerships, whether it's for charitable purpose or not, I am always more cautious, and I look at the arrangement with more scrutiny, because you know, you want to be able to trust your partners, but you have just too much risk. Okay, your personal risk, you incur personal risk for the whatever actions they do, and you can't control what they do. So that's a really substantial legal liability. All right.
Yeah.
Legal liability. You want the shield, you want the separation of a corporation. So I would still suggest form a corporation. Corporations, and you bring up a good point, can it be an LLC? And I don't think it can be. There's certain business formations that cannot be achieved with the newer type of business entity creation, which is the LLC. It's one of the more new business entity creations. It combines the benefits of a partnership with the benefits of a corporation, where you have the shield. You can conduct business in a more flexible way with less corporate formalities. It comes down to corporate formalities, the filings. Okay. So there's less corporate formalities. You have the flexibility of a partnership, but you still get the legal protection of a corporation. Now, for nonprofits, they do not allow you to create your nonprofit with the Secretary of State, which essentially makes it a legal entity. They do not allow you to form it with an LLC. And the reasons being, I believe, is most likely the filing requirements. They want you to be a corporation to comply with the more state filing requirements. You have to file quarterly, and you have to disclose more information. And they only allow that business entity to be created for nonprofits because they have to regulate it. They want the accountability with the quarterly filings, and not only with the Secretary of State, but then you also have a heightened duty with disclosures and filings with the IRS. Okay.
Mhm.
So that kind of gives you the general, the bigger picture of forming a nonprofit, the why, you know, the really the reasons why. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, and the other question is under fiscal sponsorship.
Let's go to
Uh,
fiscal sponsorship. Now that may be a reasonable alternative. All right. You just got to find another entity that already has that nonprofit status, and you got to enter into a the key document is the fiscal sponsorship agreement. It's got to be well drafted. Okay.
Yeah, I guess the question is what the organization required to file for a fiscal. I've seen references. I've seen it used in, you know, filmmaking where the filmmaker as an individual does it. And they also have organizations ability to do it, but I don't know quite yet exactly what the structure of an organization needs to be to set up. I assume you have to have officers, and an officer has to sign a document.
Bring up a good question that I will need to research. I do know the sponsor entity. All right.
Yeah, the entity that has the 501(c)(3), yes.
Yeah, that has to comply. Okay. But the grant,
And there are a number of them out there that offer fiscal sponsorships, and some are local and some are national and all of that. And some of them are directly towards an individual, an artist or somebody, and then they do say they represent organizations, but I haven't gone through that process yet.
yeah, you bring up a good point. Now, does the sponsee, must that comply with the corporate formalities of a nonprofit? I do not believe so. I believe the sponsee may be able to operate as an LLC. Okay. I don't know. That's something I would like to look more into. All right. But of course, in this arrangement, in this relationship, the key document is the fiscal sponsorship agreement. And there's going to be a fee. They're going to charge you a fee. Either they get a percentage of what you make, or you're going to have to pay them some type of fixed fee for their sponsorship.
Yeah, usually there's an application fee and a percentage of the money that they collect,
Yeah, I mean, the sponsorship
which varies, I guess, but
it's big business, like you said. There's national sponsors. But yeah, any other questions? We can go more into that. I would encourage you to take a look at this article here. Let me print this out.
I will do that. I'll let you get on to other people if you want to,
Sure.
but I'll probably contact you directly.
Okay, thank you. Anthony, are you with us?
I'm here. I'm just taking a train. Sorry about that. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So I had this issue. I wrote a script about a year or two ago. It was based on a play in a way, but the characters are different. The actual plot and story are different, but some of the dialogue is similar.
Okay.
Will that be copyright infringement?
It depends on how similar. All right. Let me just send this email and we can get into the elements of copyright infringement. Let me stop sharing my screen. I don't know how I can do this. There we go. Excuse me. So copyright infringement. It's fact-based. substantial similarity. Okay. We can go into, and then there's different courts that take on different interpretations of what substantial similarity is. Now, if it's verbatim, verbatim's always been held to a heightened scrutiny. Verbatim is subject to punitive. Verbatim is plagiarizing. All right, there's different degrees of infringement. Plagiarizing being the worst. That's verbatim copying, word for word. All right. Now substantial similarity, we'd have to go into a factual analysis of your situation and take a look at the dialogue. All right. And what part of dialogue it was it the crux of your project? Was it a climax scene? That all is taken into consideration as well. They will consider the totality of the factors when evaluating whether it is substantially similar. Not only must you meet the substantial similarity element, you have to prove that they had access. Now, I don't know. I think you went into some facts. How did they have access to your work? You have to prove they had access to your work, an opportunity to convert it, and substantial similarity between the two works. Does that make sense? I think you're
Yeah,
on
makes
mute.
sense. Makes sense.
But let's go in a little bit deeper, because like you said, is this enough? Is this enough? Was your question. All right. And that's what it really all comes down to. And the jury, usually, if you're going to take it that far, if you're going to fight it, the ultimate arbiter, arbitrator of facts of was it enough? Did they copy enough? Is the jury. All right. But I mean, I've gotten to know your situation. I don't think you really want to get to that point. No one wants to get to that point. If you're at that point where you have to go to the jury as an arbiter of a disputed fact, you're going to be out a lot of money in legal fees. All right. Not only in legal fees, but in those type of cases, you have to retain experts. I mean, one of the more notable cases was the Marvin Gaye case not too long ago. They put on a lot of musicologists to evaluate the different, they go into music and evaluate the beat. You had to put on experts for that type of comparison. But substantial similarity. You have a lot of these scenarios, Anthony, a lot of the questions you ask are good questions. You should know the law. All right. You have to be informed. But I'm also, a lot of my advice to you, Anthony, is more of the preventative type. All right. You should be informed on the law, but if you're at the point where you're making these arguments, you're in a very, disputed situation. You need to take more preventative actions, more protection. I always talk about the NDAs and confidentiality agreements. They have to be your best friend. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess when I put it out there, maybe I'll just try to get a confidentiality. At very worst, I'll just have to change the language.
Yeah. Was it just trying to find you a good resource? Was this someone's claiming that you're using language from their work?
No. I did it on purpose, but I just wanted to make sure, what my liabilities were. I mean, like I said, at the very worst, I'll just have to change the language if I don't get approved. But
Well, Anthony, here's and did I ever provide this to you? Here's your guidebook. And I said, you have to know the issues in the law. You have to take preventative steps, more protective steps. And you need to know copyright law. All right, you need to have a real good understanding of copyright law and the fair use doctrine. The fair use doctrine is your friend. That is your argument all the time. If someone is ever saying that, you used a piece of their work, you can't use this. Fair use. You have to know that the fair use. And one of the guidebooks is the Independent Filmmakers Statement on Fair Use. I believe they issue it out every so often. Let me see, Independent Filmmakers Statement on Fair Use. I think it's issued by like some of the top. It's the Documentary Filmmaker Statement of Best Practices in Fair Use, issued by the Center for Media. What is this? I think it's American University, Washington College of Law. They're some of the top universities for this area. All right. But you want to have this statement, the latest statement, which I believe this is. All right. They break it down into different categories of how you can use other people's work. All right. And you want to understand this. You're quoting copyrighted works of popular culture. All right. What are these scenarios? Historical sequences. Always I've used that a lot. I've done attorney opinion letters for documentaries, and we refer to this statement. This is your arguments. You apply the works to this statement. You make it fit into these doctrines. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, are you familiar with this? They break it down into, I believe, 4 different situations. Let me send this to you. But you should keep this on your files. Whenever you're doing a work, a feature film, a script, documentaries, most of all documentaries, because you're just documenting. In documentaries, you're retelling history. And that's why documentaries have more scrutiny, because they memorialize history. So we have to keep them to a higher standard to tell how history actually happened. They play a very important role. You're more on the fictional side, right, Anthony? Well, you're somewhat, you do a hybrid, because aren't you doing
Yeah.
a biopic? Yeah, you need to know this. You're doing
Yeah,
biopic work.
right. My next script is a biopic. Yeah.
You got to read this. You have to fully understand this. This has to be your best friend. I mean, this is the source that we enter into evidence as judicially noticed, because this is an authority. I just want to put the full title: Fair Best Practices in Fair Use. Okay. Well, I would suggest that you read that statement on fair use, Anthony. I think that will clear some things up in terms of what you can do and how you can do it. You can use other people's work. It's just about how you implement it. Remember, I always say the Copyright Act was not designed to give people a monopoly over works. But in fact, what people don't realize is the Copyright Act was created to inspire people to create more works, to inspire creation, to inspire progress in society and the arts and sciences. So it's not as restrictive as you may think. Does anyone have any other questions? Michael's still with us, Anthony. Before we
Are
sign
you
off.
gonna email that to me or are you gonna text it to me? I read you email it to me. You have my email, right?
I believe I sent it to you by email,
Okay, great. Thanks.
but I think we're coming up to almost the hour. I do like to keep these brief every Monday, 9 a.m. I know, Anthony, if you guys can sign on at 9 a.m., that will be helpful because I do like to stay on to about 9:15. But if no one's signed on, I do take care of other work. So please, if you have any questions, let's bring them to the regular 9 a.m. Zoom meeting. We're usually live streaming as well. It's another reason why there's no confidentiality. This week I just did not live stream. But other than that, yeah, I appreciate you guys signing on. Every Monday I'll be here, so you know where to find me. It's my way to be of service, to be in touch with the community. A lot of people want to be able to ask their legal questions, and I don't have time is limited. Everyone is time is limited, so this is my way to just bring everyone together at a common time where you'll be able to reach me. So yeah, I want to wish you guys both a good week. Take care, take action. Any last questions before I sign off?
No, just want to say thank you. I'll be in touch.
All right, thank you, Michael. Anthony, any questions?
No, not at all. I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, take a look at that statement. That's a resource you need to keep on file.
All right, great. Thanks.
Especially doing biopic, anything where you're doing real life. Did I ever give you the link to the video for legal issues and telling real life stories?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one too. So those
Okay.
are some good resources. All right,
All
Anthony.
right. Great.
Yeah,
Signing off. Yeah. Bye.
yeah, thank you for signing off. Have a good week.